Well, as you can see, I'm clearing out of space for a new project. Let's check out what it is after the intro. Welcome to the Kiefer's Hot Rod Shop YouTube channel. I'm Nick Kiefer. Well, there's a car-sized space in my shop. Better fill it with something. Wow, just like that. Here it is. The nice non-rusty roof body to fix that car. All right, well, we got the other Cutlass body in here, pushed it all the way in from around the side of the shop. Who pushed the car in while I watched?
Yay! This guy.
This guy. And you may be wondering, so why do I have two Cutlass bodies in the shop? Well, let's go check that other one out. So this car is one I got probably over a decade ago, and I used to cruise it a lot, and it was pretty clean back then. But one thing about a vinyl top is there is pretty much always rust lurking underneath, and this one got pretty bad. You can kind of see this side's not so bad, but the other side's got rust bubbling all out from under the bottom of the vinyl, and maybe you can see that kind of rust stain running down the side of the car. Yeah, it kind of got a little nasty there, and the floor in the car looks about the same, just because all that water got into the car after it went through the roof. Got stuff like this. And I do like vinyl top cars, and I was really excited when I found this car back when I first got it, but I kind of like the clean, just painted roof look just as well, honestly, these days. And also, it's just such a rust-prone area, especially having the trim and, you know, and the padding and all that stuff around there. I've decided that I don't want to build a vinyl top car. But check out this roof. Nice, solid, non-vinyl roof. This body's going to be really nice. This fender is kind of messed up, but they kind of mudded it up to the front bumper there and stuff, so that kind of sucks. But about 8 years ago, I got this fender, and it's in pretty nice shape, so I'm planning to use it. There's a guy up in, I think he's up in Greenville, South Carolina, I got that stuff from. I also got a pretty decent hood, so obviously I'll be cutting a big hole in the middle of it, but this hood, this particular hood, is pretty rough on the outsides. You know, it seems to have some filler and a little rust and stuff, so I'm not a fan of the Aero front ends. Some of y'all might like them. They're kind of cool. The headlights are different. They're kind of neat, but I'm definitely using this beautiful 1986 front end. I love these, and the 86 is my favorite year. GBodyparts.com just introduced a nice new original style reproduction emblem to replace that with. But the frame on this thing is really nice. It's not pitted too badly or anything like that. It looks to be in really good shape. So I kind of have two frames to choose from. That one's a little pitted, like it's got some surface rust. It's not too bad, but you don't really know on these things until you take the body mounts off and kind of see what kind of rust forms under there. Yeah, it's going to be one of the worst spots back there. It does have a good amount of oil on it, but on that side, but on this side, the battery side, it had gotten, you know, a little eaten up. Obviously the core support suffers worse being sheet metal, but I kind of have a choice with that. But before I go any further, let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say rat, meaning big block Chevy. So what I've got powering this car is a 871 supercharged big block Chevy. This is a really special blower from the blower shop, TBS. So as you might notice, it has this pair of fuel rails on either side of the blower case. And these feed 8 fuel injectors that spray right into the side of the case, right on the rotors of the supercharger. And this is something special that they've developed just for EFI applications. Actually, Mike Finnegan has a blower case like this on his 55 Chevy Blasphemy. And from what I've read, they went through a few different positions to figure out the optimal angle and position for these injectors. So it's a really neat thing, and it kind of eliminates the need to have an injector plate on top or injector bungs below the blower in the intake. So that's really cool. Finnegan uses like it's like a 3 or 4 barrel inline throttle body on his, which is a really neat vintage looking unit. I'll be using a pair of 4 barrel throttle bodies, which are really similar to like a 4 barrel carburetor without, you know, obviously any of the fuel stuff. But these do have like a throttle position sensor and an idle air control motor and all that stuff. So that's how I'm going to control how much air goes into the motor. Once again, as I kind of stated before, it'll have EFI, so it'll electronically be controlling the 8 injectors. And down the road, if I need to, just to cool things off, lubricate the rotors, or add more fuel if needed, I can still add like an injector plate on top or an intake that has bungs in it as well. That's another option, which is popular with superchargers. You know, they have a lot more than 8 injectors sometimes, but I just kind of like the cleanliness and the innovative quality of this cool new system that they're developing. But additionally, we've got a really neat 8-rib serpentine system from CVF. You can see there's a power steering pump down there, obviously the alternator, water pump, and yep, I even have an AC compressor in this thing. My intention was to run it with the factory air box. I've got a new evaporator and heater core and all that. I was going to rebuild this thing, but Vintage Air just introduced a kit for these G bodies, which should give me a little bit more room for that valve cover. It'd be nice to be able to easily pull that off and also get to the spark plugs down there. It's inside the dash instead of taking up this whole area in the engine compartment here. But what you're seeing here is actually just an old 454 truck motor that I'm using to mock everything up. I've got a nice dart block and some AFR heads and all sorts of stuff that'll be coming together to make a 540 cubic inch big block to go under this blower. That's something we'll look at later on the channel. I'll show you all some of those parts probably, and also I've got an idea of who I want to build that motor, machine, build, dyno, all the above. I have put motors together before, but something like this I don't want to take chances with, and I'd love to use somebody with some experience and knowledge. And it'll probably save me a little bit of time since I'm trying to get this together for next year. I've got it set up in the car with a set of 2-inch hooker headers. I think I'll be using these in a different car, and I plan to actually build a little bit bigger set of headers just to flow all that exhaust that this thing's going to be making. Also, since I'm considering running this on the track, I'm going to add a belt guard, and I got to check. I might have to run straps on this thing. Not sure, but that's all stuff I'm going to check into just so I don't raise any eyebrows at the track when I'm trying to get through tech. But yeah, this thing's going to be an absolute beast of a power plant, and really excited about it. I'm considering maybe like a big and ugly 3-bladed throttle body scoop on this thing. I want to see how these dual quad throttle bodies work. I might actually even be using a different throttle body than these. These are really nice AccuFab units that I got from AlcuDigger. I got the blower and actually my Holly computer and all the drive stuff, not the serpentine kit, but the blower drive stuff and fuel rails and all from AlcuDigger. They're in Tennessee and they sell a lot of TBS stuff. But they also sell these AccuFab throttle bodies, but they kind of run into my scoop here. So I don't know, I kind of don't want to cut these down. I will if I need to. I considered welding spacers onto my scoop. There's a few different kind of possibilities I'm considering for that. One of which is using Holly's 4-barrel throttle bodies. What I like about that option is I can put a like a throttle cable like bracket plate system with the dual return springs and everything on these studs. It fits on their throttle body nicely. And that's something that I might be doing. It'll just kind of ease doing a throttle cable and all that. So that's another detail I'm going to work out. Obviously, as this thing comes together, there's going to be a lot of little minor things that I need to find solutions for. Really excited about this, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And definitely, it's probably going to be a learning experience. These things make a lot of heat and a lot of torque, so I'm going to need a pretty serious drivetrain to go behind it. But we'll check some of that stuff out next. Also, if you're wondering what kind of transmission the car's getting, I'm having a TH400 built for it. So I've actually got a couple old late 60s cores here. I think one's actually a 70 and one's a 68. So they're good cores, good strong 8-bolt pump cores, but I've decided just for SFI approval reasons and you know, just for peace of mind, I'm actually going to go ahead and have them built inside of probably a Reed case, but somebody's aftermarket case that's SFI approved. And what I'll do is just save these cases. So reason I'm showing you two transmissions here is because I think I'm going to have one built as a spare, and maybe it won't be like a full aftermarket case with all the same stuff. I think what I'll do is I'll build one just with like a JW Ultra Bell on one of these cases, just to have a spare in case I break the really nice transmission, and so then I have something to put in while that one's getting fixed. Another thing that I want to show y'all is actually how I'm going to do the back of the car. So a little while back, I actually worked with Bowling Brothers Early Iron, and they build chassis and stuff for street rods and all sorts of cool cars. But one service that they actually do have is they can mandrel bend 2x4" 120 wall rectangular tubing. And so with them, I designed this pair of rear frame rails for this car. And so I'm personally not a really huge fan of the notched frame rail G-body thing. It's kind of a requirement in some classes. They require you to keep that inner frame rail, that factory inner frame rail kind of side of the frame. And if you want to fit a 275 on a wider wheel, like a 12 or anything like that, you definitely have to notch the frame, unless you want to stick the wheel and tire out the side of the car. It's clever and it works, and you can reinforce it, and it turns out pretty good. But I'd just rather do this with these custom frame rails. Now I will be using stock style suspension, so it'll be like stock concept triangulated 4-link, and I'll actually be positioning a G-body style tubular torque box between these rails. So it'll really be like stock style suspension. I just don't want to do that notched frame rail, factory frame rail thing. I'm just not really crazy about that. I think this is going to be a lot cleaner and neater and probably stronger ultimately. But I will be retaining that factory suspension design. But these things are really nice. They have a big old mandrel bending machine that they put this stuff through. You know, there's a little bit of convolution on the tubes here, but it's not bad at all, and especially considering that that's what they call a hard way bend. I mean, it's just a beautiful pair of rails. I was really stoked when I got these in the mail. They're gorgeous. Really excited to put these in the car, and obviously, so they're gonna run a little closer together than the factory rails, just so I can make room for that 12-inch wheel, the 275/60/15 drag radial. But I'll still be able to fit the factory pickup points for those upper control arms, the upper triangulated control arms. So that's one thing I'll be doing in the car that's going to be really neat, and I hope y'all are looking forward to it just as much as I am. I'll also be building a fabricated 9-inch housing for the car. It's going to be braced up and have coilover shock mounts and everything like that as well. It'll be a little bit different from the housing on the Nova, just because that's a parallel 4-link housing, but it'll also be similar in many ways too. So that's going to be coming up. Also, I want to go ahead and put a full cage in the car as opposed to just like a roll bar or nothing at all, just because it'll not only improve the safety of the car, but it'll also strengthen the chassis a bit. It'll tie the frame rails kind of in and strengthen everything, and I can tie those rear custom frame rails into it all as well, and all the shock mounts and everything like that, and make it super strong. So considering the fact that I want to go ahead and put this thing on the drag strip, and considering the fact that I want to tie some bars into the rear frame rails there, I've decided to go ahead and give it an 850 cage. That should be really nice, and I don't think that this thing's going to be down in the 8s or really deep into the 9s for that matter. The motor's really cool, but you know, it's just not really something that's going to be pushing much over 1200 horsepower the way I want to build it. My intention with this car is to have a really neat looking street car. I wasn't originally intending to race it, but it just kind of makes sense, since it'll make some good power, and it'll be pretty appropriate for the job. But I'm considering some options. So I could build a 850 cage, bend it all up myself, and fit it in there. But also, More Race Chassis makes a really nice kit. It would save me a bunch of work just to get their kit. It's all bent up and notched and ready to go. I wouldn't have to order all the materials and, you know, once again spend, you know, maybe a couple weeks bending up a cage. Theirs looks really nice. Looks like it fits nice and tight. And another thing that I'm kind of concerned with is just how much space there is or isn't for the windshield bars. So it's actually really tight in here. It's hard to tell, but as you get down to where the tubes would go through the dash, there's only a couple inches of space, and those tubes have to be really tight. And looking at the More Race chassis kit, they have it looking really nice in there, nice and tight, goes right through where it needs to go. And I could get it like that, you know, with a little bit of work, a lot of measuring and figuring. But that's one avenue I'm considering, is just ordering theirs up, save me some time. And what I'll probably end up doing is making my own rear main hoop support bars, or I call them rear down bars, that go back here, because I want to keep the rear seats in this car, and they're the MRC More Race chassis kit just kind of has bars that are more or less straight going through this area on either side, and I think I'd want to kick mine up just so there's room in the back seat in case anyone wants to sit back there or anything like that. And I want to build this car to look really clean, something, you know, I could take the car shows and have fun with and do drag and drive stuff with. So that's an option. I'm considering everything. Definitely, you know, it's a full frame car, the G-body, so definitely gonna tie the cage into the frame or chassis of the car. It has to go through the floor and meet with that to be legal, and also it just makes sense to make it strong. But we'll check that out when I get to it. Hopefully in the next few months I'll be working on some serious like chassis and suspension stuff on this car. But it should be a really cool project. I'm looking forward to it. Another thing that I think is really neat is Kevin Smith over at KSR Performance and Fabrication has actually kind of started his build series on his G-body Cutlass. He has one of those really cool looking early G-body Cutlasses, like a 78 or 79 or 80. And it's a really neat car. He was saying that actually if you look on TRZ Motorsports website, the pictures of their front coilover mount conversion brackets to put coilovers in the front of these G-bodies, they have pictures on the website, and those are actually pictures of that car. So he's been working with them for a long time. I'll actually probably end up getting A-arms and stuff from TRZ for this build, but that's really cool. He's actually going with Oldsmobile power. He's got a small block Olds that he's had built, and really neat motor. He's wanting to do like coil near plug, so 8 coils on the motor. EFI, it's a twin turbo or single, I can't remember, but it's going to be turbocharged, and that should be really neat, especially with an Olds, and especially with a small block Olds. So actually, I have a 455 big block Olds sitting in the building here that I had planned to put in that car. And that's how I was going to go with it. Big block Olds. I think I was going to do some EFI stuff with it. And all that. I was considering options on that, but those blocks are tricky to work with. They're not the strongest blocks. Those motors are very torquey, but not huge power. And I was just wanting to do something naturally aspirated. You know, no force induction or anything, but I ended up with the big block Chevy blower motor, and I'm pretty stoked about that, and I think that's going to work well for me. But hey, maybe one day I'll get a nice aftermarket Olds block or something and stick a 871 on it, who knows. But you know, I did this just kind of for simplicity. These are well supported in the aftermarket, and they're really cool. I'm really looking forward to feeling this power plant. That's going to be a lot of fun, I think. If y'all don't know who Kevin Smith is, KSR Performance and Fabrication, he's actually down in Gainesville. I saw him on my trip down there when I checked out the Sick Week stuff. But y'all should check out his channel. Really cool stuff. He works on Cletus McFarland's cars sometimes. He was a big part in building Mullet, his El Camino. So he's a G-body guy at heart, I guess, and he does a lot of really cool stuff, all sorts of stuff. He tunes Vipers and all sorts of really neat stuff down there. Sometimes I wear his shirts, you might have seen in my videos. That's KSR. That's going to be really cool. I can't wait to watch his build while I build mine. And hey, maybe we'll be able to line up and race against one another one day. That'd be really cool. I'm really excited about this project, and I can't wait to really dig in and start on it. And I hope y'all are looking forward to checking it out too. I think it's going to be really neat. Should be a fun car. And I think I'm going to be able to do some really cool stuff with it. Go out and do some drag and drive events maybe. We'll take it to the track, take it to car shows, who knows. I'll take y'all along for the ride for sure. But once again, I appreciate y'all watching and liking and subscribing to the videos. Really appreciate y'all doing that. So between the Cutlass here and the Nova project, there'll be plenty to check out. And we'll see you next time, and we'll see what we're working on at that point. Until then, take care and have a nice day.